Hey, what's up, people? Piz out here, and today I've got another movie for you guys for my The Lost series of reviews, where I talk about movies that are a little more obscure, movies that you guys may not have even heard of, or movies that you've heard of but just haven't seen. And the movie that I want to talk about today in particular is a movie that really I never hear anybody talking about it. It's strange because of sort of the names behind this movie, and the fact that it was kind of one of the first of its kind, a kind of biographical serial killer movie. And it's actually based on one of the first, big serial killers in America. One of the most, the first really high-profile serial killer in America. And the film I'm talking about is Deranged. And Deranged, of course, is based on the infamous Wisconsin madman Ed Gein, who was a grave robber, a necrophile, and a murderer. And of course, if you're familiar with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Psycho, The Silence of the Lambs, those characters were all based on Ed Gein. And what Deranged does, Deranged was made in 1974, actually the same year that Texas Chainsaw Massacre was released. It was written and co-directed by Alan Ormsby, who had previously written Death Dream for Bob Clark. And actually Bob Clark was offered the opportunity to direct Deranged, but passed because he thought the script was just too disturbing. So he stayed on as an uncredited producer. The movie features makeup effects from Tom Savini, and it stars Robert Blossom as Ezra Cobb. I guess they didn't, for some reason they didn't want to use the name Ed Gein, so they went with Ezra Cobb. But the story, as many of you probably know, is he's this sort of seemingly harmless kind of hermit kind of guy who'd lived alone basically with his mother for many years out on their remote farm. And they'd really become very codependent together. His mother told him all about, the evils of women, that women were all evil, and that the wages of sin was death, and so on and so forth. And once she passes on, he basically goes berserk. He digs up her body. He takes it home. He's talking to her, and replying to himself in her voice. He starts to plunder other graves. He's making, famously lampshades out of human flesh. He makes an outfit for himself out of human flesh. We all sort of know that story, at least on some level. And Deranged was the first movie to really sort of delve into that, and they really pound home. The opening title card is, the events of this movie really happened. Names and blah 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 have been changed to protect blah 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 blah. And then directly after that, we're introduced to this journalist who supposedly covered the whole thing for the local paper, and he sort of acts as our guide and narrator throughout the rest of the film, popping up periodically to provide exposition and so on and so forth. And it's a pretty low budget film. I think it only cost about $200,000 to make, but it's actually a pretty well made, and at times fairly disturbing kind of film. Robert Blossom gives just a great performance as Ezra Cobb. There are some really good makeup effects in the film. I mean, considering, yes, Tom Savini was one of the makeup artists in the film. So that shows through. There's some good, nasty, ghastly parts in the film. There's a great part where Ezra digs up. He finds out that his former Sunday school teacher has just passed away, and that when people pass away, it's listed in the newspaper. And he's very excited about this because he can look at the newspaper and find out, ooh, this person recently passed away. I'll go dig them up and take them home. So he digs up the grave of his former Sunday school teacher, and he's like, "Hi, Mrs. Brown, remember me? I was in your Sunday school class," and then proceeds to carve off her face. There's a great scene where one of his victims goes into his house, and she can't find him, and she walks into this bedroom, and there are just all these corpses in the room. And like she's just staring at these corpses in shock, and slowly one of them starts to move, and we realize that it's Ezra donning a woman's flesh, her face, her hair, her breasts, and he starts cranking this like crank up music box, and it just looks so demented. And then he starts chasing after her, and it's just it's very, very demented and eerie. There's a really entertaining sequence involving a seance and a would-be paramour of Ezra's turned victim that was pretty entertaining, to say the least. Deranged is just a really solid, really good 70s, biographical serial killer movie. And, it's graphic. It's grisly, a lot of it. It is disturbing. A lot of it is eerie. It does have some elements, though, that, the periodic sort of, the reporter guy just sort of jumps in every now and again, and that's just really kind of jarring and really took me out of the movie at some pivotal parts to provide exposition, which really seemed unnecessary. But aside from that, it's a really solid movie, and I'm not sure if it was available on this Midnight Movies MGM double bill with Motel Hell, but I think this went out of print years and years ago, and it was selling for a pretty penny online. But definitely see if you can find Deranged, seek it out, sit down, watch it. I really enjoy it. I saw it for the first time many, many, many years ago on VHS, and it still stands up. It's still a really solid movie. I would also recommend Ed Gein with Steve Railsback, which came out, I think, in like the early 2000s, which was an even more accurate biographical film about Ed Gein. So I highly recommend that film as well. I don't hear a whole lot of people talking about it. I might do a Lost. I might add it to the Lost. I don't know, but definitely Deranged is a solid flick. Some strong names behind it. Like I said, Bob Clark, Tom Savini, Robert Blossom, who just had a really prolific career, was in all kinds of movies. Alan Ormsby, who of course wrote Death Dream, he went on to write. He's had a pretty prolific career as a writer. Just a good flick. I highly recommend it. Track it down if you can find it, and give it a watch. I think you'll like it. So if you've seen Deranged, please leave in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think of it. And until next time, take it easy.